Nigeria, outside of Borno State, Boko Haram has gained more local governments. Under his watch, senior military officers are getting killed by Boko Haram and other terrorist groups, even inside the Nigerian Defense Academy in Kaduna. Under Buhari's watch and SARS, citizens protesting the killing of fellow citizens by Nigeria's own police. I mean, Nigeria's police and military, they are worse than the colonial enforcers as well as the slave dealers. Nigeria represents far worse than the slavery era. They killed NSAS protesters, removed their body, 96 of them, according to the report by the Judicial Commission of Inquiry set up by the Lagos State government. They killed them, removed their bodies, and the next day they came with water tankers to wash away their blood in order to conceal evidence. Lai Mohammed is still Minister of Information, Minister of Misinformation and Lies and Deceptions in Nigeria as we speak. He hasn't resigned yet. Issa Pantami, that has been fingered as a terrorist sympathizer, is still in the government of Nigeria. Muhammad Buhari's government gave out over $100 million to Fulani herdsmen owners, Mieti Allah, to keep on fighting and killing people and taking over their land, replacing communities. An active genocide that happened in Rwanda is repeating in Nigeria in the year 2021. It's been ongoing and continuing, yet the world is keeping quiet. That's amazing. That's very, very unfortunate.
Block to the middle belt that has a Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa, Adamawa, all of these places you hear about killings in recent time, they are Christians, but they were part of the northern Nigeria that was governed for almost 80 years by these Muslim far north that now has 12 states. And where we are now is that they've gone beyond just proclaiming Sharia for themselves, contrary to the provisions of the constitution that brings Nigeria together. Nigeria is a secular union between all these blocks, and it was carefully, decided to be so. And even at the time independence was being negotiated, that part that has gone back to Sharia now wanted Sharia. But the British, had to set up a commission that settled some of those questions, and they removed, with a compromise, was that Sharia was removed from the table, and they brought in what they call the penal code, so that the middle belt, that was part of that northern region of the time, could be in that region, being Christians and not be molested. So it was a fundamental part of the discussion of how that middle belt could be part of that north, and by extension, how Nigeria could be one country. Because if the middle belt that is sharing the Hausa lingua franca with the rest of the Sharia belt to the upper north, could be so indisposed, could be so reluctant to become a part of a region that will be governed together, with them included, you can then imagine the South that had nothing in common, not religion, not language, not culture, not even any serious commerce. And so it became a fundamental thing that Sharia should not be brought near the union.
Yeah. Let me just take a moment, because I think our audience is pretty familiar with this term, but just to help again characterize what the problem is. Sharia, of course, is an Islamic doctrine that is described as the path or Sharia law by some. It is truly a comprehensive way of living that all faithful Muslims are supposed to conform to, and it is characterized by a really brutal, supremacist, misogynistic, and otherwise freedom debilitating kind of code that if imposed on others, typically is to their great detriment. Either it will result in their extermination if they don't convert, or at the very least their sort of reduction to a sort of dhimmi status, as it's called, as second or third class slave citizenry. So when you're talking, Tony Nadi, about the northern belt populated by people who do practice Islam according to Sharia, and by definition thereby are ordered to try to expand its reach through jihad, this inevitably was going to make it tricky for people in the middle belt or the south if there was not some check on the expansionist tendencies of the people in the north. And what has, of course, happened since that constitution was adopted, I guess with the encouragement of the Brits, has been the rise of what some call Islamist tendencies, or simply Sharia supremacist, forces elsewhere, as well as in Nigeria. So talk first about those forces in Nigeria, and then we'll get to some points that you were making last Thursday about the Islamic State and others who are now finding that to be a fertile ground for their supremacist program.
Yes. The thing that has made the Nigerian case a lot more volatile is also the feudalist angle to the Fulani, who are the Fulani is that supremacist group that have overrun that place and established control. There are people they met there who is basically subjugated to a point of no voice anymore.
Now, again, the Fulani are Islamic tribesmen, as I understand it. They're nomads, but they've become increasingly armed and aggressive towards the non-Muslim population. Is that right?
Yes. The ethnic drivers of this Sharia movement are the Fulani, who themselves are feudalists in their worldview. Quite apart from Sharia, they do not believe that all men are born equal. In their world, there's only the master and the slave. And things like democracy is offensive to them. They don't want to discuss. They don't believe that the slave should be competing for space with his master. And the slave is not entitled to anything, including the right to life or property. And therefore, they see the rest of Nigeria as that slave. On one side, being feudalists. The rest of us are slaves in their eyes. On the other side, being Shariarists, the rest of us are infidels in their eyes. So either way, we are already condemned. The rest of Nigeria is already condemned to death, because if you insist on democracy and constitutionalism, you are offending them, because it should be a matter of a master and servant that should never be put in competition. If you then say you are Christian or you want something else, you are an infidel, and in their Sharia, they are entitled to, they owe it a standing duty of faith to kill the infidel. And as feudalists, they owe it a standing political duty to themselves to prevent their slaves from voting away. Because in the subjugation that they have been helped to, achieve by the colonial, Britain that came working with them, and we have to come back to that point of what they came from outside. That Fulani is an itinerant population. They don't have any country to which they domicile. They are a nomadic population.
Yeah, throughout much of this Lake Chad region, as I understand it. But let me turn, before we run through too much of this block, I just want to introduce another force in all of this, about which we've heard much more in the West than we have of the Fulanis, and that is Boko Haram. How do they fit into this picture, Tony Nadi?
Boko Haram was simply a creation, a deliberate creation of that caliphate, the Fulani-led caliphate, to overrun, to seize power in Nigeria. And they used it maximally. Unfortunately, there were some elements in the West that worked with them somehow, because at the time that Boko Haram should have been contained for what it is, should havoc, and they shocked their way to power. You will recall what led to the outcome of the elections of 2015, in which a Southern Christian president was hounded out of office. Combination of all kinds of falsehoods and propaganda, and a lot of bloodshed, because it was a matter of, oh, if only one of us could come, this thing could be contained. They were making it increasing the volume of blood that had to be shed to maintain that pretense that it was the weakness of the man from the other side. Bottom line, they used Boko Haram to push their way to power.
Tony, let me ask you just to suspend for a second, because I don't have time for this block, so we will be right back to discuss more with the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress, Tony Nadi, right after this.
Mobs into the windows of innocent shop owners, humiliated in the Friedrich Bonhoeffer, atrocities that the regime had produced.
Territory needs attention. The teachers, evangelists, interpreters, the attention to the, he stood up with his people for persecution by safe to them. Bless you as you listen to them riding on our. It's not enough thing.
Of trying to teach people lives. Friedrich Bonhoeffer came home one evening. His own father were waiting to make him in prison. Bonhoeffer flagged a country of thinkers into a collective of cowards, cruel, criminals. Eventually, he concluded that the from dangerous while one may test against evil composed. By the war against humanity, not nor the wars
and watch the
judgment. incidental. In all this, the stupid person is self-satisfied, and, being easily irritated, becomes dangerous by going on the attack.
That's the
For that
act of
reason,
children what?
greater caution is called for when dealing with a stupid person than with a malicious one. If we want to know how to get the better of stupidity, we must seek to understand its nature. This much is certain. Stupidity is, in essence, not an intellectual defect, but a moral one. There are human beings who are remarkably agile intellectually, yet stupid, and others who are intellectually dull, yet anything but stupid. The impression one gains is not so much that stupidity is a congenital defect, but that under certain circumstances, people are made stupid, or rather, they allow this to happen to them. People who live in solitude manifest this defect less frequently than individuals in groups.
What a mighty God we serve. Hallelujah. What a mighty God we serve. Hallelujah. Heaven and hell adore him. Angels bow before him. What a mighty God we serve. Hallelujah. What a mighty God we serve. Hallelujah. What a mighty God we serve. Hallelujah. Heaven and hell adore him. Angels bow before him. What a mighty God we serve. Father, we thank you. Oh Lord, we bless your name. We worship you. Lord, I thank you for the gift of life. Lord, I thank you because you are Jehovah. You reign it forevermore. You never fail. You never falter. You never change. You remain the same. You are the same God yesterday, today, and forever. You are the Lion, the tribe of Judah. You are the King of